all of our collaborative partners and sponsors, from the Union County NAACP to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Lifting As We Climb Charitable Foundation, The Spot, Deja's First Day of School, written by author Dr. Lashina Gaines, the State of Black Health Conference, Tap and Vine, MMIP, which means Match Made in Purpose. Of course, our brothers of the Delta Xi Nu chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to the State of the Union Qs. And of course, our sisters of the Union County Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Our own Coach Rob with his phenomenal book, Prayer, Patience, Progress. Anderson Outreach. And as always, to all of our audience members and to all of our supporters, make sure you tap in with us. Shoot us an email, leave us a comment, let us know your thoughts. And if you want to be a collaborative partner or a sponsor in the future, don't hesitate to reach out and pull up a seat to the table and enjoy the soup.
And welcome again. We are back. Welcome to the Soup, where conversations simmer, ideas blend, and every voice adds flavor to the mix. I am your host, Coach Rob, aka the Chef. I am joined by my amazing guests, Doc Jay Good, the Godson, the Professor Keon, and Lewis, Mr. Lewis. We're talking about fat shaming today. So this one is gonna be, well, I guess looking at the pictures, unless y'all were big when y'all were little, it looked like this episode about to be about me getting ready to talk about my time. But this it's gonna be a good time, and we're gonna talk about it, because one thing that you know is how you are, how you believe that you are is what you'll be. So today's topic is talking about fat shaming and how that starts, how that has happened, and what it does to people in life. And so we're gonna kick this off. Brother Keon Lewis, the professor, will you start us off with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, my brother, I want to tell you, you look good. You're not fat. You're not big boned. You just Coach Rob. You the chef. You are happy in your skin, and you be proud in that, brother. So I just want to commend you on that. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. When we talk about the topic of fat shaming and the impact that it has on all of us collectively, society, and just individuals, the biggest thing that jumps out to me is that it shows up in so many different ways, and oftentimes it's because of the things that we say about ourselves, right? Um, that's one of the more critical aspects about fat shaming, is that you have, we sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and from that it shows up in different ways. It shows up in our conversations, our verbiage, the way we text, the way we email, the way we think of ourselves when we look in the mirror. And then also with that, it shows up in the way that we comment about others, whether we're looking at it the way it occurs in social media, in music, in media, in entertainment, in film, and things of that nature. So the most immediate thing when we think about fat shaming is that before we can even get into the conversation of how we comment and how we view others, the most prevalent form of fat shaming happens when individuals don't see themselves as being the ideal shape or the ideal look or figure.
That's interesting you say that, and I'm going to jump over to Doc J to see, is there a definition for fat shaming? Is there I mean, I don't know. Is it something out there for that? I know it was something that has been, and I think it's changed over the years from back in the day to where you had those in the certain magazines that looked a certain way until now, where you have your artists, where you have your, whether they be singing, whether they be athletes or things like that. But is there an actual definition for it?
I think the definition has definitely evolved over the years. Some people may equate it more to body shaming,
Mm.
not necessarily just fat shaming. It's not necessarily just equated to looking at individuals who may be of heavier weight, but just in general, making fun of anyone who has any body type that is not necessarily considered uh, part of what we consider a beauty standard that is popular at the time. So at some point, we went from a beauty standard of everyone having plastic surgery with larger, more voluptuous bodies. And sometimes we're looking at models who have skinnier bodies. We're comparing it to what we may have as some standard of beauty that necessarily may not be a realistic. and then we're shaming the body that doesn't look quite like that person's body.
Hey, Doc, I think that was a great point you made there. I think even what we call the topic of fat shaming, the body shaming, because you look at it from one aspect, and just even with the titles, automatically of everything overweight, the obese, to where you look at body shaming, they can say you're too small, you need to pick up some weight, and then maybe you don't have enough muscle mass or some things like that. So that body shaming part puts a whole new spin on it, and I want to jump over to the godson and ask him, what do you think about that as far as how that takes a place in emotional? Because you have a young son now, and when we have kids and their bodies develop, at different stages, they may start out one way and grow into another, or vice versa. How do you look at that when you're trying to deal with your child? I mean, depending on what size they might be the tallest in the class, they may be the shortest in the class. So that body shaming can really flip from fat shaming to really talking about body shaming.
Yeah, well, let me first start off by saying go Broncos is homecoming. So I just want to start with that to let everybody know, shout out to DG, Delta Gamma, meet us at the well. So let's start there and let's just, clear it. We don't fat shame at the well. Everybody is welcome. So I just want to be clear there. So pull up.
Thank you, Jay Good.
Yeah, pull up.
Shout out to DG.
All bodies
out.
are welcome, and we're gonna feed you too. So let's start there.
Yes, sir.
But where we get into it, and it's funny because each week we do this, right? And I have to kind of go back and think a little differently. And you talking about somebody, hey, the back of my suit had an H, when I grew up. So, that husky was definitely prevalent. I understand what it's like to be that way. I'm starting to eat a little differently now because that thing can shoot up, real fast. But when I talk about, my son and just keeping him focused, like, man, let's just stay in athletics, continue to do things. You'll stretch out. So having seen that body type before, because his body is very similar to mine, just letting him know this is what I've seen before. These are the changes that are going to happen. Don't necessarily concern yourself with it, bro. Let's just keep going. And then the other thing we look at when we think about like social norms, obesity, and what that looks like in the past, a lot of these numbers aren't for us. Like I'll let the professor kind of give us some details, or Dr. Jen give us some details about that. But a lot of these were not for our body types, the more muscular body types. And when you look at insurance rates and things like that, those numbers are all kind of racially biased there, right? So first of all, we have to get out of there. I always tell people, if you look at your body, the best way to test your body is when you get out that shower and you look over at that mirror. If you like what you see, hey, let it rock. You good. You know what I'm saying? You good. And then also, let's look at the numbers, not the numbers on the outside. Look at the numbers on the inside. So let's look at the blood pressure. Let's look at, the diabetic numbers. Take some blood. Really look at what's coming inside, because that manifests itself on the outside.
And that's something, when you say that, because like all my life, it's been like everybody know Big Steve, but the thing was that growing up, even though you were considered to be, like you said, depending on who's looking at us, overweight, I was always included. I knew how to dress. Most of the people that I hung around with were older than me. So, rest in peace to my partner Everett and then Andre. We had partners that would let you, we knew how to dress. You knew what to put on. Mom made sure we had the latest clothes. So it was never a thing of you didn't know how to dress, you knew how to keep your hygiene. Well, they told you that, we had you get on the bus and your breath, your arms thinking, hey, it don't matter what size you is, the arms can do your arms. There's some things there. So I think depending on where you're at and you built that confidence, I was one of that built self-esteem when I was young, because like I said, you run around with older people that took you with them, let you hang out with them. So you learned and did things different. You moved different. So those were the things that built that self-esteem, your self-confidence, to the point where I walk in the room and feel good wherever I'm at. Now, one of the biggest things was Dr. Jonathan Edwards, shout out to the bros. When I moved here, he told me, he said, Steve, you carry your weight well. He said, you don't have an issue with like high blood. I don't have like all of my cholesterol. All of my numbers were good. He said, the issue is as you get older, it's harder to come off. And that's where the problem began, to really set in. Not the problem, but it really woke up for me to even now on this journey now of actually releasing weight. On Call of Lose, I just released some weight. And I feel good. I don't want to go but so small. I like how I, carry myself with what I do. But the health side of it is where it comes in at. If it was the case that you can do it and be fine, but as you get older, those issues come in, And then, as you were talking about before, when your body size decides to stretch out or whatever it moves, well, the mental aspect of it for our young people today, or even old, is the social media part. So that plays a major factor. And I want you all to touch on that. How big of a factor social media plays in the body shaming world, fat shaming world, or whatever you want to call it, whichever one you want to go with. How does that play a part?
Yeah, excellent point. And so to piggyback on what our good brother, the godson, mentioned. First, I can't let him slide, seeing that this was the only homecoming that was popping off this week. I had a feeling that he was going to bring out the Broncos stuff, so I had to bring out my Aggie gear and shout out my school, North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, home of the G-Hope, the greatest homecoming on earth, where we love everybody as well. Come one, come all, enjoy a fish plate or enjoy a vegan plate, whatever you need. It's all family, it's all love. And shout out to the brothers of Muse Side and, of course, the home team of Mighty TQ. Now, back to our message. Love you, Jay Good. Um, Twofold. I love the fact that we brought up the conversation about separating health from weight. Um, One of the key things we need to understand, and especially with myself working in the public health field, and with Dr. J with her clinical background, is that body size is not an indicator of health. There are many factors outside of a person's control that influences their weight, how they feel, and what it looks like. And so, going to your point, Steve, in that your doctor is letting you know, hey, you carry this well, be mindful of what you eat and your exercise, things of that nature, but also be cognizant that once we get to a certain age, we're not 25, we're not 26 years old anymore. That metabolism doesn't work and function the same way. So we got to be mindful of how we eat, the things that we consume, our level of rest, and all these factors. But going from the understanding of that, our health is not indicative of our weight, when you look at the impact that social media has on how people just view themselves in general, let alone their weight, their height, their overall looks, you have so many mental health crises that have occurred as a result of that, because a lot of individuals have lost their identity. They think they have to mimic and look at what's popular and what's getting all of the likes and what's getting the number of engagement, what's getting the clicks. And as a result of that, you're creating this enormous paradox that's leaning in a negative direction because of what social media is, because we've opened up this enormous Pandora's box where people can freely put out information, comment how they want, say what they want. And then on top of that, now we've added AI. So where we can't even tell what's what anymore. We can't even tell who's who. We're now living in an age where it went from just a few videos and some pictures to now we're seeing Tupac, Michael Jackson, and Kobe Bryant chilling out in Cuba in a convertible. We don't know what's what anymore. And so we've lost our identity in that. And as a result of this dynamic, people are feeling like they have to replicate what's popular and what is, and what's getting those responses. And I think we have to be mindful of that. We have to be very cautious. And that comes with knowing oneself, recognizing and even acknowledging your own biases before you can go out here and get caught up in the way people are commenting on your pictures and your videos.
And speaking of that, what you just said, Professor, and to take it over to ask you, Doc J, how does that, in your profession, how often do you have clientele that may deflect or not take, not acknowledge what is going on because of the body shaming part, or do you see that a lot, or how does that play a part into, the clinical side or different things that of that nature?
I think for young adults and for older adults, it puts you in a state of body dysmorphia, where the image that you see is not the image that you're really fully computing in your brain. And you're not seeing the beauty potentially of what is before you truly, because you're so much in a state of comparison and trying to navigate a space of something you think you don't like, something that you think you need to be, something that you think you need to change potentially. Um, and not to say that you don't want to exercise more, not to say that you don't want to have more biceps or you want to be more healthy or look leaner or whatever the case may be. But I think social media puts us in a constant state of comparison to images, um, and to figures and to looks that maybe the professor said, aren't really real, right? Constant images of things that people have pretended to be that really aren't. I can put anything on my social media. It's the life that I want you to see, not necessarily the life that is. The body I want you to see, the images I want to see, the things that I want to sell to you, the things that I want you to imagine them to be, but not necessarily what they are. And I always say that comparison is a thief of joy. So how can I really enjoy who I really am and the beautifulness that is me if I'm always looking for something that I think or believe is greater? And imagine all the people that we see in person. I mean, I'm sure we've seen plenty of even the celebrities or athletes that we really see them in person and they're like, they look nothing like what their social media honestly looks like. There's filters, there's all kind of what you said AI out there. So what you see is people who are constantly looking for this the grass is greener type mentality, and you have to kind of help them to appreciate what they really have and what they're really seeing, and do some mirror work often to help them realize the value that they have within themselves first before they look towards others to be in a comparison state.
Okay, now when you're talking about that comparison part, and since this is the soup, so we're gonna bring it in. You know, we put that all together. The soup is live. It's where it come together. So I want to ask you this, and this is for each of you all to take. When you have that friend that you know has been body shaming themselves, or they deflected by one way, but how do you, as the person, if you've been hanging with this person and you know that they may feel a little off, or you all going to going out that night and they might feel one way or they don't feel good about themselves. How do you, as that friend, how do you get them to see that, past that they're not, the bad? Because sometimes you'll get people that are deflected by getting loud or getting out of pocket and just cutting up. But how do you all, as the friend, say, hey, man, like, or hey, my homegirl, whatever, how do you get them to see that it's not what it seems, or to even sometimes I like to say this, we don't like to tell that honest truth to our people sometimes. We'll let it go by. We won't check them, and it's not in the check them in a bad way, but how do you get them to say, hey man, like you got to chill out, or because of one thing or another that could lead to something else that you're deflecting that's causing you more problems. Any one of y'all can start with that. You want to start with it? Good.
I
No,
can kick it off. Yeah, I'll kick it off.
Kick it off for us, Professor.
Yeah, I I love what you suggested, Coach, in the intervening part, right? Knowing our personnel, knowing our friends, family, colleagues, frat brothers, sorority sister, etc. Is after you've been around with an individual for long enough, you kind of know, read body language. You kind of get that sentiment when they're going through those highs and those lows, and when they're uh, comfortable in the environment that they're in, or when they get uncomfortable.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've learned in instances like that, where it's one thing when you crack jokes, but it's another thing when you start hitting that area of sensitivity where you kind of see that body language shift.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm pretty certain we all got that one homeboy or homegirl where when that body language shift, it's not always them crowding in to just shy away. Sometimes it can be an explosive reaction, and
Right.
so us intervening is to prevent it from escalating and from getting to that point. So I think when we see and when we hear dynamics like that, I've learned how to intervene in a manner so that it's like, hey, all right, that's cool, we good, let's be careful, all right, my boy, he's good, he done had a rough day, he trying to relax, trying to chill, all
Right.
right, type deal. But then I've also seen instances where it's been the other way, to where someone is not so much being shamed, or it's someone making a comment about the clothing that they wear, or it's language, it's a lot of these different things. But I think the biggest thing that I take from those experiences, knowing the personnel, understanding the environment, and knowing my place as a friend, whether I'm a friend on both sides or on one side, is knowing when to recognize when that discomfort has hit, and either intervening in a way so that it reaches neutral ground, or I find a way to shift the subject matter so it's no longer about them personally and their appearance.
All right. Doc?
I think for me personally, I try to be a good steward of compliments. Like, I know what my friends like or dislike about themselves. When you're in a crowd of, and I hang with a great group of guys and girls. So I'm always thinking, and we have a lot of, you know, jokes within the group. But I like to think that when we go out, we look good. So I try to be the complimentary one. I don't know why it comes in my head right now when Jerome on Martin was like, "Look at the white shoes," and he thought he looked good. Well, he felt good in those white shoes, so I'm the one that's gonna be like, "Oh, okay, with your little white shoes, I see you," hyping my friends up, making sure they know that they look good in their white shoes or their black outfit or whatever the case may be for the men and the women. I think women, we tend to do a good job of complimenting each other, but I feel like my guy friends need to be hyped up too. So I'm going to be the one that's letting them know they look good too, because I want to put a smile on people's faces. I want to make sure they know they have the confidence no matter what they got on, no matter what they're wearing, no matter where we're at, that they can feel good no matter what their situation may be, even if they're not feeling good. Because that's the worst part about going out in a crowd. Or if you feel like maybe someone else in the crowd or somebody with you is looking better that day. No, we all are good. We all are good. We're all together. That's how I feel.
Before the godson begin to say his part, I'm gonna just be honest with you. If you waiting on Jake Good to say it, don't do it. Don't do it. And the shame in this comment. Jay Good will say if you got on something that you probably shouldn't, Jay Good gonna say that's what you're gonna wear. Is that what you come with? That's it. That's good. Is that gonna be it? So, but it's coming from. No, it ain't even coming from a good place. But I'm gonna go ahead
Hold
and
on,
make
bro.
that.
Bro, it's all love.
He said it's
It's all
executive
love.
coaching. It's
No, he just
executive
telling you.
coaching.
He just gonna tell you, man. This guy will say anything. He say that's what you're wearing today. Oh, okay. But you thought that was it for the night. No, man. No, you just make sure your outfit, make sure you feel good about yourself. Cause you could be in the calmest, relaxed spot and the guy's gonna say something that can throw it all off. So, but go ahead,
God's
take
gonna let
good.
it be known.
Hey,
Go ahead and make that up your part.
hey, man. I was gonna say that's why I let the body go first because this is in my ministry. Um, you know, you gonna get it whether you look good, if you big, if you. And the crazy thing about me and my friend group too, if you started you go on your weight loss journey, man, you lose that thing too fast, we gonna get you too. You know what I'm saying? So it's a thing. And I grew up in the bet era, right? So I struggle with this with my son because the era I grew up in was if somebody show you out or show you up a little bit, you just say bet. You did more push-ups than me today. I'm gonna go work on this. You look better than me today. I'm gonna come. And every once in a while, my friends go out. I like, hey boy, you ain't have to do us like that. Boy, you hurt us today. But hey, don't worry. Next time you see me, I'm gonna have that thing put together. That's just how I grew up. Like we all motivate each other, even in good times and in bad times. Now, if somebody going through a bad time, we'll pull you to the side, like, hey man, you all right? Now you still got to get these jokes, but I just want to check on you, make sure you mentally strong to handle this. If they coming, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. But like I said, with my son, I struggle. I'm always like, nah, I get motivated, negative motivation. Like, you just need that 50 cent, like put that battery in my back. But everybody's not motivated like that. So I have to be aware of how things land at times. But yeah, like, hey, you gonna get it.
Yeah. And that's a good to say that. I think you have to have that because that brutal honesty, even if it's about somebody else's, it's there, but there has to come a point to where the difference between actual concern for the health in the body versus shaming, and I think that's where they can get a fine line, even though we've made it in society now where, you can let social media do it. People do feel good about who they are and the skin that they're in. But when it gets to a certain point, because here's the thing about it, I've had friends that you think they're in great shape to find out that they have high blood and they got diabetes. So there's a difference there. So it's not always about, wow. So you're thinking like, oh man, you felt like that person is small, they good, but there's another side to it that they struggling with diabetes, they struggling with different things, taking shots. You're like, whoa, you thought that was only set out for people that was obese or something, in a different size group, but it's not. Excuse me. So it becomes a time where when the actual concern for your health versus the body shaming comes into play. And I think that, I feel that us as individuals of being friends of who we're going to be friends with, or the person that we care about. And like you said, Doc, there's a whole group, that you're running with, like, hey, there comes a time where there's going to be a need to pull to the side. Is everything all right? Even with us as men, especially black men, I mean, it's talking about in groups, hey, you had your prostate done. Have you went and got this check? Have you went and got that? Like, yeah, we can joke and play, but it come a time to where we move into some things where we better start checking on each other, or you might get the wrong call that you don't want.
Amen.
Hey Steve, can I ask a question here?
Yes,
I
indeed.
think I think you mentioned like the shots and different things like that. How, and I'll lean to the professionals here. How do we look at people just jumping on the shots versus putting in some of the work? And I understand some people need the shot for diabetes, and if you could kind of walk me through what that process looks like to determine, am I a candidate for Wegovy or some of the other shots, or do I just need to walk around the block a couple times?
So I can speak from the chronic illness disease prevention and education standpoint. One of the things that we're finding ourselves doing is setting up platforms and opportunities for not only just individuals who are diabetic or dealing with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, hypertension, you name it, but just for entire communities to come out and learn and understand that if you're dealing with this, number one, it's not a death sentence, but number two, there are some best practices, some things that you can do to kind of determine if this in fact is something that could improve your life with just some simple lifestyle changes, right? With how you eat, the number of occurrences in which you exercise, the amount of water that you consume, things of that nature. But on the other end, you also have some instances where, from a medical standpoint, those level of treatments are required, and that your physician is going to recommend them for you. And the hope is that it's not for an eternity, but more so just for a limited amount of time, and that you can yourself, work your way into a better and healthier shape and healthier lifestyle. But from an education standpoint, we try to make sure that we're making our community much more aware of their choices and their options, a lot of which they can start in home before they have to go the medical appointment route.
I'll say this. I think that often communities are afraid, especially in the Black community, when it comes to medications first. I think we can be, and this is not all, but we can be very reactive instead of proactive in our thinking when it comes to medications that come out that can be preventative in our health versus treatment focused. So, like Keon said, I think it's beneficial to weigh all options because there's issues of if there's a possibility if something can help you to prevent or prolong from having a certain disease, from gaining weight, from having other health issues that are related to potential having higher weight or having heart disease, having diabetes, what have you. Um, it's worth looking into, especially when there are strong family histories in our community of various diseases. So I don't want to force anyone towards the route of using Wegovy or Zepbound or any of the Manjaro, but I don't want to tell anyone, don't use anything, go about your regular lifestyle. Because we also have to let's look even further into the food that we eat in the United States, which could be a whole other episode. Because I can tell you right now, when I go travel, my diet is way healthier just eating regular food. I go eat McDonald's in Europe, and it's way better than what we get in the United States. But that's a whole nother topic. So we are in a space where we're often challenged by the food we eat in our communities and what we have access to. So there's a bigger conversation about healthy eating that is warranted, and access to nutritious food often. So I don't want to discourage anyone from trying medications that can potentially prolong their life versus being reactive after a disease has occurred and having to try to prolong their life, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And want to bring it back to talking about from the beginning of the body shaming, the fat shaming, the different ways that you can go about it, how it affects you from the social media aspect to growing up to actually getting into the part of dieting and exercise. How does that play a role and how does that play a part? And again, that doesn't mean that you may be. It doesn't matter what size you are to continue to do the diet and exercise. So let's touch on that for a little bit. Just talk about the diet and exercise part, and we'll start with you, Doc.
Well, let me start with this. As a healthcare provider, it's not lost on me that when we say eat healthier, do better, uh, have go on a diet, things like that. It's such a subjective topic because what's healthy to me may not be healthy to you.
Mm,
I'll provide the example of years ago, I had an employee who was drinking several liters a day of soda. And healthier to this person was when they cut back to 2 liters a day of soda because their doctor said you need to be healthier. So of course, healthier was cutting back. Yes, congratulations, of course, for cutting back. But in my mind, I'm thinking 2 liters of soda is way too much, but I'm glad you cut back, right? So it's
mm,
all relative to the person's experience, to their culture, what they have access to in their communities for food, what they believe, what they've been taught in terms of healthy eating. So yes, we want individuals to be healthier, but we have to kind of be better at defining what health means to them and
mm.
what that looks like and what is available for them in terms of healthy eating and how we can make it better for them in our communities.
That was key right there. Where you said, "What does it look like for you, or what you have access to, or what can you get?" And as I move over to the professor, who's always running 5Ks, and I'm gonna do one with you. I'm gonna do one with you, Professor. Put me on the next one that you got
Come
with the
on out
little
here,
walk
coach.
run part.
I got you. I
I'm
got you.
definitely I'm gonna go with you, but
I
I
got you.
know that you're constantly doing those and staying at them. So talk to a little bit from your aspect of looking at it from your standpoint about the diet, exercise, and getting something done to help ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Dr. J stated because she hit the nail on the head in that health looks different for us all, right? Not just from a diet standpoint, exercise, but it's really a lifestyle, right? And taking those steps to ensure that we are maintaining the best wellness that we possibly can, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so for me, in my journey, it started with an injury from playing, some summer hoops, me thinking I'm still 25, 26 years old, get out here, bang up the knee, tear up the ACL and MCL.
Good
And so
gracious.
I'll never forget going to the doctor and just talking with the physician and, we're laying out the plans of, what the surgery is going to look like. And so he basically gave me the two options. Said, look, we can just do a basic procedure to where you can be functional, but you're not going to be able to do some of the key things, or we can make sure we get you back right, but it's going to be some hard work. You're going to have to go through physical therapy. And eventually, over the course of time, you'll get back into run shape and get back into form. And so, of course, I chose the latter. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about, because at the time, we didn't have any kids, but I was thinking about, man, if we have any kids, I want to be in the backyard, to be on the field, to be able to run outside with my son or daughter. I don't want to walk around with this limp. I want to make sure I'm doing the right things and making the right choices. So fast forward from that, there's still moments in which, I can feel, some tightness in my quads and in my knee as a result of that, because of the length and the procedure that took place and helping me getting back to form. But I do that because I know that as a result of that procedure, and then as a result of the changes I had to make in diet so I can maintain a comfortable weight to be able to move and function and still be the hopping boxilist, I know that there's certain things I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to maintain this, because the minute I let that go, I'm going to lose some functionality in that. And so I love the point that Dr. J made about the the cultural aspect, the traditions, the things that we do, what we eat, what we practice, whether it's from a religious standpoint or a family tradition. Those were just some of the many things that came into play to where it gave me the mindset and the motivation to maintain and sustain as much as I can of a healthy lifestyle, because I'm not only thinking about it from my standpoint, but I'm also thinking about it about my family, my son, my wife, my relatives, things of that nature, because I want to be here as long as I possibly can. And in order for me to do that, I have to make sure that I'm practicing what I preach, but also putting forth the work and the effort to sustain it.
All right, and Godson, what you got to add to that?
Yeah. First, Dr. J, I want to offer my services. If you ever have somebody that's going from 6 to 2, I can get them all the way there. Just reach out to me. I'll take care of it for you. Um, but for me, it's really just been about small choices, being consistent. I try to eat before 6 now. Um, I try to just do something, whether that's just walking, just something active a day. And I got my little watch that kind of helps me keep those things. But for me, it's just about continuing to build those small wins. So if I can get a small win today, I want to continue to stack wins. You look a little different again. My test is always the mirror test when you get out the shower, and then also the numbers. Those two things good, then we good to go. So yeah, that's what I try to do, is just continue to stack small wins. It may not be all the way jumping out there and I'm have a 6-pack tomorrow, but if I can kind of get in some older clothes or something like that, you just feel a little bit better.
All right, well, that's good. And as we bring this to a close, even for myself, for the last couple months of just coming down, just feeling better, being able to get up more, and get up early anyway and do different type of motivational things, meditate, read, and all those things, but adding the health part to it. I'm still going to eat great. And again, like Doc said, depending on what your version is. Mine is, if I stay between 12 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to eat, that's good. I'm going to kick it on the weekends. I do a lot with the job that I have that's always traveling, that's always having different type of meetings. So trying to just be more cautious of it. So as we bring this to a close and add the seasoning to the soup, but today we're gonna do a salt-free seasoning. So when we add this last seasoning to close this out, we're gonna do it salt-free, since we're talking about getting ourselves together with the body shaming and getting back right. We want everyone to, one, be grateful for who you are and where you are. Think about it as, you get an opportunity to get up the next day. You have an opportunity to change what it is that you want about your life. You got to commit to yourself, commit to your growth, and not to who people think you are. So that's the key for it today. We're gonna close on that. Thank you all for tuning in to the soup. On behalf of the whole team, we will see you on the next episode.
Peace. We want to make sure that we leave this final message in that, as with everything with this podcast, it is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, mental health, or counseling advice, or any type of diagnosis or treatment. As always, the soup encourages you to seek the guidance of a qualified healthcare provider or licensed counselor with any questions you may have regarding your physical or mental health. And as always, take care, protect your crown, protect your peace. We encourage all of our audience members to never disregard the professional advice that they're able to seek.
Thank you all from myself, the chef, the godson, Doc J, and the professor, Dr. Brother Keon. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next time.